We are storytellers by nature, sharing with others what we experience, perceive, and believe of life, our joys, adventures, our losses. We tell ourselves stories as well. Some leave us trapped by false beliefs and self-doubt. But there are also stories of persisting, exploring, and rising above. Stories of uncovering the truth, enabling powerful transformation and triumph. These are those stories. These are your stories. Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is time for truth, transformation, and triumph. My name is Zoe DeMuro. I'm a licensed practitioner here on the New Thought Media Network. My pronouns are he and him. I'm a spiritual counselor, religious science practitioner, a transformational coach. And my ministry, my mission, are here to help people co-create their most authentic and most fulfilling life experience. So I am truly honored and excited to bring this show to you. We come to you the first Saturday of each month, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. If this is your first time, it's great to have you here. If you're returning, welcome back. In each episode of this show, we'll hear how people like you, like me, who have been held back by false and limiting beliefs, uncovered their truth, enabling them to transform their life experience and then triumph because of that spiritual journey. Some of these stories can be challenging, they can be frightening, we've even seen life-threatening beginnings. If you find yourself triggered by any of these things, please know that you can always come back, watch this at your own comfort level. All right, and if need be, you can always reach out to me. All right, let's get on with today's episode. Today, I am truly honored to have Tyrone Cosey as my guest. Having served for more than 35 years as the founding choir director and minister of music for the East Bay Church of Religious Science in Oakland, Tyrone is also an accomplished soloist, performing for multiple churches, spiritual centers, and various other venues, including Carnegie Hall. Currently, Tyrone is the director of the East Bay Men's Chorus, an active member of the Heart and Soul Center of Light Ensemble, and a personal vocal coach. Please help me welcome Tyrone Cosey. The crowd goes crazy.
Was that me? Oh my goodness. I like that guy.
Welcome, Tyrone.
How are you today?
I am very well. And you?
I'm just blessed, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. Honored to be on your show. Wow.
I was just delighted that you agreed to come onto the show. I have found your music and your presence to be just absolutely awe-inspiring, truly. So,
Thank you.
To get on with our show, when and where in your life are we starting this particular journey?
That's a good question. I think let's start with the early years. I grew up in Christian Science in Chicago, Illinois. Very unusual. There was only two big churches on the south side of Chicago. Both of them are 95% Black. And I just had the honor of learning religious science at a very young age. So when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I would have study groups and I'm reading this text to try to understand what Mary Baker Eddy was talking about. And then as I got a little bit older, I just got tired of reading in the newspapers about Black folks getting killed and this and that. And I couldn't reconcile. I couldn't make sense of it. And so I walked away at about 17 from all religion for about 10 years. And in that time frame, I wound up moving out to California. And then I discovered religious science. And I went, oh my goodness, there's so many connections, so many correlations between the two belief systems. And so I'm hearing stuff that really was just resonating with me. It all started by reading the Science of Mind magazine, which most of us are familiar with. And that just kind of blew my mind. And little bells were ringing all the time in my head, like, wow, this makes sense. And so it kind of brought me back to the religious experience again, or the spiritual experience again.
Mhm.
Regarding music, I've always loved music. I've always been attracted to it. But I grew up in a household where my parents, hardworking folks, were all about finding a job when you got out of college. It's about that. Well, great that you love music, but it's a hobby. Find a gig. And I did. And I did that for a number of years. And I kind of denied that part of me that loved singing. I would keep it separate from completely from work. I don't think anyone knew at work that I was also enjoy singing. But I always had a bit of a fear. I had this lack of confidence to be able to just really sing as a soloist. My first attempt was in elementary school when we had an audition, or not an audition, an auditorium, talent show. And I was with a guitar, and I was going to play "This Land Is My Land," and I was singing in a different key than what I was singing in. And I was totally embarrassed because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what keys meant at that time. And given the reaction of the audience, I'm sure it wasn't as cruel as I thought, but I was like blown away, and I just shut down for a number of years. And like, well, I'm not going to try that again, But as time went on, and I went on to college, and in college we formed a group called the Black Northern Illinois Black Choir. I went to Northern Illinois University, and I got an opportunity. The director said, "Why don't you try this, sing this song?" And so I did "My Sweet Lord." Many guys remember that. It's actually by a group out of Oakland many years ago, and I think that was the beginning of discovering, that I had a voice to share inside. Still was a little weak on the confidence side. And so it took a number of years later, again, working professional jobs, kind of ignoring the spiritual impulse to really sing. And as time went on, out in California, I discovered East Bay Church of Religious Science and felt that I could have a role in that. So we started a choir. And we started with about 4 or 5 voices back in 1981. And as the years moved on, as we moved from one location to another, we wound up growing that choir to about 75, 80 people. We actually recorded a live concert called Rejoice, which is just wonderful. And so lots of stuff blossomed and came out of that. But in that process, I would sing some solos here and there, not very much, and was all about trying to guide and other people, but always loved and connected with the music. And so something occurred, I think, over particularly the last decade. I had an early retirement. I retired from work. I worked as a president for a nonprofit organization, assisted them in helping other people in the community, which I absolutely love. I've always been very purpose-driven. And so with the singing in the choir led to more opportunities to do more solos and building confidence with that. But once I retired, it reached a part, semi-retired, I realized that, I have a greater purpose. And I didn't know what that was at first. I was searching for it. I was doing all this praying, all this meditation, all these new tools I had. I've been a transcendental meditator since the mid-70s. And, all these skills, but still asking the question, what's mine to do? What's mine to do? And one day it just occurred to me that I was doing more begging than I was doing listening. It really struck me. And then I just kind of calmed down and actually started to listen. And I heard, I can't say it's a voice, Zoe, but it was a feeling that came over me that said, well, I kept asking, what is mine to do? And once I stopped that and really started listening, I heard a voice or feeling came over me that said, well, what do you love to do? And I love singing. I love connecting with people. I love older. I have a lot of respect for seniors. I can get down on the floor and play with a kid and have fun with them. And so that led to me realizing that my purpose is greater, much greater than I thought. What really kicked it off was that in 2023, I became pretty ill. And bottom line is that I'm so blessed I'm still here, man. I had 5 strokes in 30 days. And I know some people who checked out with 1 stroke, And so the only thing I'm, dealing with is slight deficiency in my peripheral vision. But, other than that, we're talking 10, 15%. The rest is 85, 90% strong, can speak, still have my voice, still have my singing voice. And that's when I realized that my purpose was far, far greater than just even directing or coaching others, but to really allow this inner spirit, the voice to come out. And as we used to say, get your bloated nothingness out the way. And I've said that to myself. And because of that, I was able to allow the Spirit of God to flow out of me. And it came by, first of all, acknowledging and honoring the voice that existed in me, and the correlation between the spiritual belief that all things are possible, the spiritual belief that God is everywhere, the all substance of everything. And if this is true, it's true of my voice, And so that's where I plugged into. And ever since I did that, wow, it's made a big difference in my life. I created a CD that I'm relaunching now in a new format, and the digital music card is called The Only Power. And it contains 10 beautiful songs, of which 8 of them I wrote. So I just feel so honored now. And so I feel like I'm on a new path. I mean, I'm here now, and I could have been dead, but I'm not. And so I have a lot more to do. So that's where I am. And I'm in the process, and I want you to hear loud and clear. And I hope your audience hears I am a work in progress. Trust me. The word practice really means something to me. But once I started going back to meditating in the morning, adding some structure, listening to 3 or 4 positive affirmations, daily affirmations in the morning, and kicking my day off where I knew that I was just privileged to be here, and to just rest in gratitude. Gratitude is kind of the secret power, in a way, to anything. It's just to be grateful, even for things that haven't appeared yet, especially for things that haven't appeared yet.
So when you were talking about purpose, it sounds like purpose was really a very big part of your life. Was it always?
Good question. No, it wasn't always. Pardon me. Sorry about that. I went through the period I mentioned earlier. I was about 17 years old, and I just could not reconcile. I mean, I grew up in Sunday school, so I heard all the messages, but I just couldn't reconcile if man is a reflection of God, then why are not all men honored, all people honored? Why is one group is constantly cast in the light of being negative, and another group constantly cast in the light of being good? And what is that about? And so because I couldn't reconcile it, I said, screw it. After the whole thing, I couldn't make sense of it. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a bunch of BS. And so, I'm not going to listen to it. But as life went on, and as I went through an early divorce, when I went through some trauma with my first child, when I went through all these little changes going on in my life, I knew there had to be something greater than just what appeared to be, pain and rejection and that kind of stuff. It had to be something greater than that, but I didn't know quite what it was. So moving to California and then discovering religious science and making that connection between religious science and Christian science was the thing that helped open up my mind and open up my heart, and realize that the two have to be in concert with each other. It's just not one or the other. I think that's why I found religious science as well as unity and other forms of new thought to be appealing, because it spoke to different parts of who I was. So no, to answer your question, no, it wasn't always it wasn't always there, but it's an evolution, and I look back on the long arc of my life. I've been around the planet a few years, and I realized that, wow, I have a good friend of mine. In fact, he's a practitioner, and he used to write for the Science of Mind magazine. You may have noticed him in the first couple of pages. Eugene Holden.
Oh, sure.
Remarkable human being. And he was my prayer partner for a number of years. And he would always say, if you're not in awe of the universe, you're not paying attention. And he's right. He's right. Like, to be in awe means to just know, gosh, I'm so grateful that I have, breath in my body. There's two songs that I love singing. They're not written by me, but I give credit to Reverend Michael Gott for a song called Nearer Than Air. Beautiful song, ballad. And then another song, completely different, by the Soul Seekers, Christian gospel group, called It's All God. And often when you listen to the words of songs outside of the singing of it, you can really gather something. And so I draw inspiration from almost every song that I sing. And it almost is a testimony to myself. And that allows me to express from my heart how it's moving through me and how it feels. And the reason why I mention that is because one of those songs our guys are singing tomorrow. My men's chorus is a bunch of rambunctious fellas who just love singing, and we're singing at East Bay tomorrow, East Bay Church of Religious Science. So tune in. For those who are listening, go to Facebook, or you can go to YouTube, East Bay Church of Religious Science. And one of the songs, like I said, is It's All God. The reason why I mention it, because I just want to say the words. It's just all about gratitude, and it starts off basically by saying, I got money in the bank. I got cars in the driveway. I got a house I can claim. I got clothes in my closet. I got breath in my body. And if I was just anybody, I'll say it's all good, but I know better. It's all God. And so when there's opportunities like that to sing songs that are not, they're entertaining. They certainly are, but they're more than entertaining. They're about ministering. And so that's where I come from. I discovered that it's you want to entertain, but it ain't about entertainment, really. It's about uplifting, and it's about speaking to something that maybe someone is challenged with or dealing with. So
that's a very important distinction. One of the things that I noted about your performances, for example, is, I love music, absolutely love it. And it is the easiest and quickest way to get to my heart. And when I listen to some people in some performances at some churches, what I hear is an entertainer. I hear somebody who is really getting their voice out there and really they're belting that song. When I hear you sing, I hear an invitation. Right? I feel like I'm with you. Right? So there's this connection. And it's, as you know, with Reverend Derica, she's always talking about, Reverend Derica Blackman, folks, is the senior minister at East Bay Church of Religious Science. She always talks about being able to eliminate that gap between the pulpit and the pews and being able to just bring everyone together. And that's what you do when you sing.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm honored that you feel that way, but that's exactly my intention. When I sing, it's like you have two ears and I have one mouth. So I get an opportunity to penetrate your consciousness, to penetrate your heart. And I base it on the assumption that the God in me is singing to the God in you. And that is a very important thing to me, because that leaves a space open to allow the gift of the Creator to flow through, and your gift to be able to hear it. Boy, that's a gift too, to be able to have two ears to open your heart through your ears, So yes, that's a really beautiful thing. Thank you for saying that, Zoe, because that's absolutely my intention. And every time I open my mouth, I just get out the way. And I really work hard to make sure I know my stuff now. That's important, because if you know your stuff, and I always tell my choir this, when you know your stuff technically so well, then you can move that aside, and then you can let spirit flow from within. So thank you, man. That's a serious honor.
Hey, call him like I see him. Wow. So I know we're kind of going back and forth, but sure. I wanted to touch on a few things that we're talking about. For example, you've made some transformations. You've made many transformations in your life. Yeah. And you said something along the lines of, well, I'm not done. I'm not, I haven't arrived. And the thing is, I believe that we arrive and we arrive and we arrive. We have those opportunities for many different transformations in our life. But I'm curious to know, when you went from your earlier life, where you had your foundation in New Thought through Christian Science, but something wasn't resonating for you because of the way society was treating you, the way just the whole issue of just racial degradation that was going on in this country was just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So something changed for you, because, unfortunately, I wish I could say the country has changed, but I'm not going to say that. Many of us have, but far too many of us have not. So something changed, something that enabled you to say, wait, no, I've got to put that aside. Do you have an understanding of what that might
So
have been?
I think you tuned into the part that it's an ongoing process. So you reach a certain point where it feels like you arrive, and you reach another point, because the challenge, the goals continue, right? They continue to open up as you're going deeper into yourself. And so I began to realize that growth is not only about expansion, but growth is about going deeper, and to be able to go deep as well as wide is very important. So what changed? What a couple things happened. One is it's just maturing as I was getting older, and I realized that like I said, when I was 17, I just couldn't make the connection. Growing up in Chicago, and sometimes I have to say this, but I'm a fair-skinned African American. My mom is from Louisiana, so that's where the light skin comes from. My dad's from Savannah. And I just always would get pissed off watching how other people treated. In certain cases, I was treated like that, but others in particular, and the media, how the media portrayed it as, this negative thing, as if the entire race of Black people are criminal, because there's so many in jail, so it must be. And that's a terrible narrative, but that was kind of the implication that came out of as you know, a very challenging past that this country has had when it comes to race, and still trying to work through it. But I realized that I can't change how other people behave. I can't change their world. All I can do is look at what I could change within myself, and so realizing that, I had a choice. Do I take all of the confusion and chaos that's in the world, bring that into my mind and my heart, which I did for a long time, just reading the news and listening and reacting to things? How's that serving you, Tyrone? What is that creating for you? And it just, chaos creates more chaos. And I want to make a distinction. It's not, we jokingly call the term a spiritual bypass, right? You've heard that term before, where, it's all good and everything's great and everything's crazy going on. I'm just going to ignore that. There's a fine distinction between a spiritual bypass and looking at something right at the center of it, and then looking beyond it and seeing that what exists beyond is something so precious. It's a gift that's waiting for us to discover. Sometimes I know what that gift is, other times I don't. But all I know is that what's my part? My part is that if I'm going to sing a song, I'm going to sing it with such love and such passion and such openness that it does create an invitation. Not that was my intention, to invite someone in. My intention is to open the kimono, expose the whole energy, of the rawness of the heart. I've learned a long time ago that vulnerability is a superpower. And so to look beyond something and to look for the nugget of truth that exists in something, even when it seems like it's not, that's an important gift. And then to take that and reflect that back, in music, is such an honor. I mean, it's just such an honor to be able to do that. So I was saying that was a critical change that I realized that I had to make. I didn't exactly realize at the time that music would be the vehicle to express that. I felt at the time the vehicle was my community work. The vehicle was my nonprofit activity, even though I was in sales and marketing for a number of years before I got into nonprofit. But the art is learning as time went on that the most important thing I can do and control is what I believe and what I share with others, what comes out of my mouth, and how important the word is. And so, like, translating that into music, that became easy because music is all about the words. You know,
Mhm.
it's set on this river of energy that passes right through your heart. But it's really, it rides on that, on that wave, But the truth is that it's the words that can penetrate, can resonate with meaning in someone, and then transform them. And I figured if I can work to transform myself every time I open my mouth, then it's going to have that impact with others. And so I view it as at one time I didn't recognize it as a gift. I just said, "Oh, I love singing, great," But it was as time went on, I realized that the vibration that I'm creating with my vocal cords is a vibration that is as ancient as the stars in the sky. As ancient as that, as deep as that. And so my job is just to recognize it and tap into it and give thanks every time I can, just to be in gratitude, even when it feels like it's hard to do that, especially when it feels like it's hard to do that, especially the last several years. If you pick up a newspaper or you read your Apple News or whatever, it's easy to get plugged into the craziness of the world. And so I did my share of that leading up to the election. Trust me, I did my share of that. But then I decided it's time to shut it down. And the beauty of that gift, in my mind, if you can view the election as a gift, is that it forced me to just go more inward and to find time to discover the things that give me joy, the things that gives other people joy, as me being the instrument to express that. So that's kind of the process. That's why I said I'm still a work in progress, because I've reached those plateaus where I've learned something from it and so grateful for it. And then I find, whoa, there's a lot more to go to, and there's a lot more to go to as well. That makes life so interesting, doesn't it? I mean, it just makes life just a ball, So I'm a big kid and I love it. And I feel so blessed. And every experience I've had, our choir went to New York twice and sung at Carnegie Hall over the years. So I had the honor of singing in groups, small, groups when I was younger. And then as I went older, larger groups and etc. But just the bottom line is that there's a play that goes on, just a playfulness that happens when I use I statements, when I open up my heart and when I allow the goodness of God to flow through me. So I say I'm a richly endowed expression of an opulent universe, and that quote comes from Eric Butterworth in his book, Spiritual Economics. And I hold on to those things and know the truth of it. And even when I might feel a little down or depressed, I go back and listen to words of songs that have moved me, and they seem to still lift me up. And so I figure, well, they lift me up, they can lift others up too.
That's just beautiful. The phrase that comes to my mind from Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith is pain pushes until passion pulls.
I've heard that term. I've actually heard him say that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Powerful statement.
And your life is a prime example of that.
I try to be, man. I'm so fortunate to have a wonderful partner in my life, Dr. Felicia Williams Cosey, and she is my very, very best friend, in addition to my beloved. And we just have fun, and it's really nice. I was reading an article about Denzel Washington earlier today, and Denzel says, it's good to have your mate be your friend, but he says, boy, but spirituality, and if it's a foundation, then you're off to a good start. And we have that. She's a practitioner as well, so as you are. So it's a wonderful opportunity to go not only wide but to go deep And she's a singer too. She's not a soloist, but she loves singing in the background, and a far better musician than I am, as far as I'm concerned. I'm very blessed. So, it's important for me to take those moments and to really, really just be in gratitude. And because gratitude itself, I just want to speak to that, there's a creative energy in gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps giving. And one may ask, well, how can you be in gratitude when there's so many crazy things going on? Well, that's when you especially need to be in gratitude. So you realize that the world is not all being looked at through this tiny aperture, that the world is far beyond that if you choose to. And as you know, the consciousness, the awareness is the door that opens, and the more conscious you are, the more aware you are, the wider that door gets. And the more things that you see, you face. We saw Wicked recently, and that moment where, you see the yellow brick road and you see the beautiful flowers that are out there. It's just a beautiful image, but it's just, to me, it represents the true abundance of life. More than wealth is health, it's air, it's breath in the body. It's all of that combined, and wow, it just makes waking up in the morning a joy. Let's get up, let's do what we need to do, and let's enjoy life, be purposeful, take serious what you do, but not necessarily take yourself that serious. So that's kind of been my path, and I just really, really feel honored about that. And this, lessons of getting your ego out the way. That's a big one for me. Moving judgment out the way. That's a big one for me, and still working on those things, and particularly self-judgment. I've learned a lot about projecting and, looking at others and having an issue with them when the very thing you're looking at could be the very thing that you don't like about yourself. So very interesting, what this belief system, this philosophy offers. And it's not to throw any shade on anybody else's religion or spirituality, not at all. I love the common themes that come up in all religious beliefs, no matter what it is. There's always a common theme of love, and so when I realized that, it's like, great, I'm open to it all. If you ever notice at East Bay, quite often, especially when the men sing, soon after the opening prayer, we move into the call of worship, the Muslim call of worship.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my fellows, terribly talented, Chris Hanif, sings that. And many people don't know, but Chris Hanif spent a couple of years incarcerated. And so he came out even deeper than he was when he went in. We remember when he went in for a couple of years. I remember he came out, and we just rejoiced. And now he's singing deeply from his heart, and highly recommend you consider asking him to be on your show one day, because I think he has a remarkable story as well.
I made a note.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, all the fellas are awesome in this group, and each of them are very unique in their own right. So if you happen to tune in tomorrow, knowing you'll probably be there live.
I'll be there tomorrow.
But if your audience, I really encourage you to find it and watch it, because it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you need something to help lift your day, this is a good space to plug into. Yeah, and I hope for those who are also listening, if you're interested in my music, I know Zoe will flash something on the screen where you could reach out to me, and we're happy to make arrangements to get you that music, or if you'd like to give a gift to someone, it's available to do that if you like.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk about the idea of deep and wide. Okay. All right, so this is just going to be a little short break here. If I can find my video. If I can't find my video, it's going to be an even shorter break. Here we go. Hang on.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we are back with Tyrone Cosey.
That's a great commercial. I like that.
All right. So you had mentioned the idea of being able to see and to seek and to explore wide and deep. Tell me more about that.
Well, I think in general, our society defines growth as expansion. Can we make something? Can we build it better? Can we make it good again? Can we do all these things that are about constantly moving out? And there's nothing wrong with expanding territory. There's a great song about that, in fact. But it's important to go deep too, I think. And to go deep, I've learned it's required to be still. And being still has never been a strong suit of mine. I have always been a very active person, probably just nervous energy for the most part. And about mid 70s, my first cousin introduced me to transcendental meditation. And so I've had that in my back pocket for, several decades, and some decades I used it, some decades I didn't, and I realized that inconsistency does not contribute to going deeper. It actually leaves you on the surface, sometimes with your feet under, pedaling fast, trying to stay up afloat, But I've learned that to go deep requires stillness. It requires reading material that challenges you, reading material that offers a different way to view something, and then spending time to contemplate that, and not just in some intellectual way, but to really bring it down to heart, and then tie it into, maybe what your purpose is in life, and that's a discovery process. Many times a purpose changes. You can hit it, like you were saying, you can reach a certain point and then you realize, oh, there's a greater purpose. But I see that as going deeper and deeper and deeper, into it, and to go deeper, for me, it requires not only being still, but trusting the energy that's around me, trusting it, knowing that it's not a harmful universe, not at all. And I think I've read this quote somewhere where it says, I wish I could remember where, but it says, the world owes you nothing, but the universe definitely will owe you support, will give you support. The world doesn't owe you anything, and to come to that conclusion took some years, because looking at this big R thing called racism and trying to make sense of it as you're going down a spiritual path can be challenging, And to try to look at it as close as possible and ask the question, what is it that you're trying to teach me? What am I trying to learn from it? Then it puts it in a different space than this other thing that you despise and you don't want to have any part of, and etc. It could put it in a place where you can almost have compassion. I say almost because I'm working on it, but almost have compassion for those who feel differently, for those who are coming from a different place with it. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but to take the time to try to really understand how a person feels. And I think what you're doing is that you are showing that the relationship is important to you.
Hmm.
Relationship is important. This is the reason why you want to engage, or you perhaps it's the reason why you want to state something that's your truth instead of being in some rage or upset that you suddenly, you know, just express how you really feel about something, to be able to have a conversation with someone and share with them what might be your perception of something. Um, and then allowing them to share back with you what their perception is the beginning of, I think, of engaged listening, to being beginning of really listening to where another person is coming from. So that's part of what I mean by working on it, because I'm not completely there. If you ask me, you know, how have I felt about the last 8 years politically, I would probably give you a very interesting answer about that. But I'm realizing that life is about far more than just that component. It's a very important component of life, and one where we all have a shared responsibility. But it's not the only view. When you put it in a perspective, it's a very small piece of the bigger picture. So I think that's what I mean by going deep, to create a stillness in your energy, so that you can see what's beyond that, what you can learn from it, and still love yourself. And that can be a challenge, to always love yourself no matter what. Even when you get pissed off at somebody else, can you still love yourself? Can you still look at it? Can you ask yourself, well, you're pissed off, why are you pissed off? Maybe there's something in me that that I disdain, and someone else tapped into it, and now I'm blaming them. You know, so I get to look at that, and I think that's all part of going deep and going wide, because both are important, but one should not be neglected over the other. Did I answer your question? I hope I did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And it's one of those questions that you can talk about for days.
So true, man.
Yeah. I mean, when I think of wide and deep, and you touched on all of this, actually, the idea of widening your vision, for example. So when we think of what we want and what we feel we need for ourselves, you know, that's that nice narrow band. But when we open it up and consider what the world needs, all right, much wider view. When we look at something and say, well, if I want to be happy, I need to have this, the nice narrow view. But we can open it up to this or something greater. Because what do we know of our greatest good?
Well, I'm gonna flip the question on you. What is one of your greatest transformations in your life?
Oh, wow. Okay, let me see. Just one of them. How about getting sober?
Wow.
So I went from being an addict and an alcoholic. It's been, how many years have I been sober now and clean? 44 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably the first big transformation in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about wide and deep. I mean, my entire focus on life was as narrow as it could possibly be. It's about getting whatever I needed, whether it was my alcohol or my drugs. And then the rest of life didn't really matter as long as I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from that to where I am today, were a whole lot of steps and a tremendous amount of transformation. But I would say that was probably the biggest one.
Wow. 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 What a lesson. What a lesson. Wow.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say about the going deep, when we look at things, and you also mentioned the idea of being able to see beyond what's on the surface, you know, and that goes not only with what we perceive, being able to see beyond someone's ignorance, right, which is different from stupidity, but being able to look beyond someone's ignorance and see that beyond that, there is a person there that's trying to do something for themselves or trying to do something for their community or whatever, how they're doing it might not be good at all. But there is something back there. When you think of it, we all want basically the same things.
That's very true.
Right? How we want to get them differs wildly. Whether or not we consider how it affects another person differs wildly. Right? But if you are able to look beyond the surface, you can find so much. So deep from that perspective, and then deep also from the perspective of being able to weed out the things that have been causing you so many problems. It is so easy. I love the idea of the garden, and, we plant the seed in the soil and it produces. Okay. So we also plant seeds of distrust and fear and ignorance.
Absolutely.
And to get rid of those is more than just a matter of clipping them off at the top. All right.
Yeah, got to go to the root.
Right. I mean, if you're using spiritual bypass, that's the spiritual weed whacker. And everything looks fine and great for a second. Yeah. And then there it is. So there's a tremendous benefit to being able to expend energy in that way.
Mm-hmm. So true.
I mean, you get to choose how you want to spend your energy. You only have so much.
Yeah, that's a very, very true statement. I like how you described that. You made me think about when I was younger. I was a big old fat chubby kid, and went to a high school in Chicago that was transforming on the south side of Chicago to basically a gang community where there was the Blackstone Rangers, and so I remember sitting on a bench in my sophomore year outside of school and looked to my left with 5 other fellas and saw a black cloud of leather coats coming our way. And everybody took off. And again, I was a chubby kid with a briefcase, and someone said, all I saw was a red blur going down the street. I can laugh about it now. It wasn't funny because someone got hurt in that process. But the thing is that those early experiences, and with the additional weight, I didn't see much value in who I was at that time. Mm-hmm. I was, trying to discover who I was. I made it through freshman year where I had nothing but smiles and, a little innocent kid, and went to my sophomore year and I realized, well, you got to keep your face a little straight. You can't be doing so much smiling. You got to come off a little like you got some game or whatever the case might be. And so I hung in that pocket for a really long time. And part of the discovery process of the spiritual evolution is being able to look at that kid back in that time and be able to love that child up, love it up, so that as we move forward in our life today, as I move forward in my life today, I can look back and love that child and know that child is an extension of where I am now. And now today I have 2 grandchildren, one that was just born. I was 2 weeks old. Name is Dan.
Congratulations.
Thank you, young boy. And then my granddaughter, her name is Naya, and she's a sweetie pie, 2.5 years old. And so I see the light in their eyes, and it's so much fun to watch how children are so unlimited. They haven't been told no their entire life, and they can see things beyond what we see as adults. So, so I feel like discovering that the inner child, staying in contact with the playfulness of life, the innocence of life, is so critical to the present moment. In fact, it's essential to the present moment. And so I give thanks that, I love to laugh and play around and joke and have a good time. But I also know that none of this is possible without recognizing the spirit that not only lives within, but saturates our very presence. And that, that movie about everywhere, all at once, at the same time.
Mhm.
I know I
Yep.
probably screwed up the quote of that, but it so reminds me of spirit that is just everywhere. So how can there be less spirit in one spot and more spirit in another, right? Doesn't
Mhm.
exist. Not if it's all of it everywhere at the same time, all at once. And so just to recognize that in my stillness, particularly, gives me the self-motivation to continue, and realizing, man, we just getting started. Just getting started. And how much fun it is.
The Zen story about the young monk that goes to the older monk and he says, "Oh, I'm looking for enlightenment. What should I do?" And he said, "Chop wood and carry water." So he goes off for a year and he comes back and he says, "Okay, so what should I do?" He said, "Chop wood and carry water." Comes back a few more years later and he says, "I've reached enlightenment. What should I do?" And he said, "Chop wood and carry water." That's the way life is.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, just keep practicing, keep doing it.
Yep. Yep.
Try and find the essence of the spirit in the most minute things, and that's the joy. That's like finding the little nugget that exists in everything, and then blow it up in the way you express.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, we could do this for days.
Very true. And I've enjoyed it. This has been just remarkable, man. Very, very easy to talk with. I like it.
And that's what I wanted this to be. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
So any last words before we come to the closing?
Well, I would say that, again, if you would like to hear those rambunctious fellas, tune in tomorrow. We're going to do an arrangement of Donny Hathaway's This Christmas, a lot of fun, joyful song. And then we're going to do another one that I shared some of the words with you earlier, called It's All God by the Soul Seekers. With our own flavor. We got a wonderful house band that's just cooking right now. And they're a lot of fun to work with. So I encourage you, tune in, Facebook, YouTube, East Bay Church of Religious Science. We'd love for you to join us. And then the other part is that if you're interested, and this is, I think, to me, the most important part, if you really are interested in giving the gift of inspiration, give the gift of music, and give my CD if you like to, or my album. I really would appreciate that, because all the songs are loving, positive, uplifting, and all of them contain the spirit. And I think that's the most important part. So send me an email and we'll make sure that you get your digital music card. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Zoe. This has been remarkable. I was thinking before we came on, what the heck will I talk about? But with your gentle guidance and with reflection, and in this wonderful moment that we're spending of being still together, like putting a little stopper in the door of time there for a moment and just experience the richness. So I'll end with a quote from Robin Williams. This is, well, I shouldn't say this because it's not bizarre, but he used to say, this is richly bizarre. The point is that it's a very rich experience. And I'm very grateful that I had an opportunity and that you asked me to be a part of this. You're doing a remarkable work, man. And I hope you continue, because you are definitely purpose driven. There's no doubt about that. And I feel so honored to be a part of it, man.
Greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate that. All right. So, folks, if the concept of the show resonated with you, please let me know. All right. You can contact me directly at, where is my thing here? There we go. Here at zodemuro@gmail.com. Love to hear your ideas for the show. I'd love to hear if you want to be on the show, because what we're looking at is any aspect of transformation. So by all means, let me know. And on the New Thought Media Network, know that we have over 40 hours of programming every week.
Wow.
All right. So tons of great stuff. On Sundays, for example, what we do is we show about half a dozen different services from around the country.
Wow.
Right? So you can get to see many different approaches, many different perspectives, many different lessons. So I want to thank Tyrone once again. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. So grateful. This has, without a doubt, one of the most exciting and enjoyable parts of my ministry, being able to spread the joy of new thought.
Mm.
People talk about proselytizing and talking about the precepts and such. As important as that might be, no, it's the joy that I want you to get. All right. So I will see you, folks,
Well said.
another month. So happy holidays.
Thank
And
you.
Tyrone, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
And happy holidays to all of you who are listening right now. God bless you. Know that whatever you're going through, God is closer to you than your own breath. Call it God, call it spirit, call it whatever you want, but know that you got the juice to make it work.
Well said. Thank you.